Well, in a sense, every village can be said to be haunted because every village has at least one ghost story connected to it. Pluckley, though, first had the claim ascribed to it of being the most haunted village in England in 1950, when a gentleman called Frederick Sanders wrote an article for the Kentish Express in which he specifically named Pluckley as being so. And he gave a list of 10 ghosts or paranormal events connected to Pluckley. 12 years later, a resident of Pluckley called Desmond Carrington wrote an article for the TV Times in which he listed 12 ghosts of Pluckley, and these have become more or less the official 12 that we still base the legend on today.
For us, being spiritual is a lifestyle about your own personal and spiritual growth, being a good person, learning about yourself, and a medium is someone who connects to spirit, who hears them and sees them. So the two aren't necessarily going to go hand in hand, are they?
No.
You don't have to be a medium
To be spiritual.
and vice versa. Anyone could be a medium,
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
Yeah, because we're all souls and we are spirit underneath our human body. So there's no reason why those souls can't communicate with each other.
Yeah.
It's just whether you want to.
Okay, we'll try to probably go a bit quiet sometimes and then... Yeah, that's cool. Right, should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ooh, lovely.
Pluckley's earliest one that we know of was the legend of the White Lady, who was buried in several coffins, either 3 coffins or 7 coffins, depending on which version you've heard. And that story was being told from probably the late 19th century onwards, so that was Pluckley's original ghost story.
I'm a courier for Every, and I deliver parcels into Pluckley. And the other night I was round the Black Horse pub, right next to the cemetery, about 6 in the evening, no one else around, and I thought I felt someone touch me on the shoulder. I thought it was a customer waiting for a parcel, but all of a sudden I felt something walk through me. And when I turned round, there was this sort of figure, sort of a white figure, and whatever it was, it went into the pub. And I knew the pub was shut because it was closed down. And I know the history of Pluckley. I mean, I've delivered there for years, and I know the history of the village. But no, I don't believe it was anything spiritual or like. No, it was just... You know, it just sort of happened to me.
We can't promise that we'll pick up on any of the known spirits. We'll just tap into whatever comes our way.
Yeah, I was walking along, I could make out in my mind's eye a lady in a white, I guess, dress. It wasn't so clear, but she was walking along so I could see her behind the trees. And she just drew my attention straight away. It was difficult to age her because she was more of a silhouette, there was more of awareness. But she gave off a really pleasant energy. There wasn't anything that I felt, oh, hang on, this is off. She just seemed sort of curious, so yeah, I was drawn to her straight away.
I now know that Pluckley is the most haunted village in England, but I never knew any of that when I lived there, and now I do. I don't think I crossed paths with any of the known ghosts. I moved to Pluckley when I was 15, got married in Pluckley Church when I was 19, and moved away when I was 20. And Pluckley is definitely a very old village, but there's a lot going on there. When we moved to Pluckley, my mother said, "This is a very odd village." Even after we were living there for a while, she said, "There's something not right about this village." And one day, she sat me down and she worked all the way around the village, and every single house had a tale to tell. One day I was on my horse and I was coming back from Smarton Woods, and I passed a little old lady on a bicycle, and all around the woods there was a ditch for the water to go in. It was a very long, straight road, and after I passed her, I looked back and she completely disappeared. And I thought at the time, that's really odd, because she wouldn't have had time to get off her bicycle and turn around and go the other way, because I would have seen her, and she wouldn't have been able to go into the woods without getting off and climbing into the ditch. So she just disappeared. So, yes, it's very odd. A very odd village.
I think you could best describe my attitude as sceptical but open-minded. I think that most accounts of so-called paranormal activity that you hear sadly are either invented or they're down to entirely rational or reasonable factors. In researching Pluckley, I haven't yet seen anything that would convince me otherwise, but that said, I am open-minded and I would love to be convinced.
I was really drawn to this man, and I did feel like he was trying to get our attention. He was in his 30s to 40s. He'd sadly taken his own life, but there were regrets because it was almost like he was pushed to. He was almost umming and ahhing. Do you know, like he was like, do I not? It wasn't a, right, I'm going to do this. He really tried weighing it up.
So, do you know we can send them over?
Could you explain like what crossing over and sending people to the light? A bit about that? Well, for us, it's about some spirit don't realise that they've died, or they want to stay in an area because they're attached to it, maybe a traumatic event, or they don't want to leave someone. So, like we say, you know, in the films, you see this white door, don't you? And then the spirit are standing there going, come with us. That's kind of how we imagine it. So we ask our guides to help that spirit to realise that he or she need to move on. And we visualise the white door.
We do, and we see the loved ones there as well, often, which is really nice. It can be quite emotional, especially when they look back and say thank you.
Yeah,
they do. So really grateful. It's really reassuring. It's really beautiful, and it's it just. Do you know what? I feel really grateful. Like really grateful to be able to have that experience. And you know, we both crossed him over together, and we could see his wife. You'd picked up then he had children. There was a little girl there, and just to be able to reconnect them and have that feeling that they're all together, feeling that peace, love, and joy.
We can move on.
Yeah, after we shine a rainbow.
Oh,
I like that. Right.
So I spent my teenage years not far from Pluckley, in Southway near Ashford. Me and my friends drove around Pluckley and we went to the woods. We'd been there loads of times, but this was the last time I ever went. I've not been back ever since that one experience. It's just... it's always given me this very horrible feeling. I don't think I would ever go back. You know, the woods, Derren Woods is known for the screaming. And looking back, it gives me the creeps, but me and my friends, we used to hear screaming all the time. But we kind of just assumed it was just, you know, random people messing about, or maybe an animal or something. There was this one day, we left to the woods and we were there maybe like an hour and a half. This was like 1 a.m. and we were chatting like normal, but in the distance I could see in between two trees, I could see what almost appeared to be like a 7 or 8 year old kid, like a young boy, almost in like a suit or a school uniform, in the trees, you know, like stood on the ground maybe about 15 feet away, and it wasn't just out of the corner of my eye. I'd seen it. I locked eyes on it. And about 2 or 3 years later, I was interested in researching Pluckley because of my experience. There was a YouTube channel called TGF Bro, and they did a video on Pluckley in Derring Woods, and Jay starts to describe the exact same thing I'd seen.
I don't even want to talk about what I've just seen, bro. We need to go, bro. Literally, we need to go.
Yeah, I looked to my left in the trees, and there's a fucking kid stood there, bro. He was wearing shorts, that's all I remember. I saw legs and I saw a small body, like a small little frail body, bro. Thin kid, stood behind a tree.
He reacted very similarly to me. And after I saw what I saw in the woods that night and made everyone leave, we spoke about it. And we kind of just assumed that, you know, I'd sort of seen something and made it up. But since then, and since knowing that someone had seen exactly the same thing as me, it makes more sense for this to be real than not.
This one boy has kind of come over. I think he did come with some others, but I'm no longer feeling them as much. From the top of the head, I can see his hair, and it's kind of like a sandy coloured, but it's like a, I kind of described it as a bit of a bowl shape. It's not modern. It's like he gets stronger the more we like talk to him. It's like he suddenly feels a bit more important. You know, like you'd get a gang of kids, and then you get the one at the front who's a bit more mouthy. It's like that. But I think he's just the sort of person that just wants to be seen. So he's like, actually, he said, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did do that. You know, when you go, he's that strong enough that he could probably show himself.
For someone who's not purposely looking for a spirit, if they come across them and undoubtedly would be scared, I completely understand that they would be like, let's go, and I don't want to be here. Because we were actively looking for them, and because we are so comfortable with the notion of there being a spirit, I feel like because we were relaxed, so was the boy. And I'm not scared, so therefore there wasn't fear sort of enhancing or diluting, whichever you look at it, the experience. Whereas I suppose for Aidan it would have been scary, it wasn't what he was looking for, it would be out of the blue, and to suddenly see a child, all the horror films and scary things he's seen all his life will come back to him and trigger him. So he probably would have been highly triggered and obviously wanted to leave, whereas I wanted to see more. It's sometimes unfair that the people that don't want to see it see more than the people that do.
Yeah.
I have witnessed interesting things. I try and work it out to a logical conclusion, and sometimes there's just no logical conclusion, and you have to go to the illogical and think, well, maybe it was something.